FC25 is a very complicated game, and here is my honest opinion on the game.
You know, when EA separated with FIFA last year, their last year game was the first game that they released by themselves, and FC25 is the next edition, the next version of them making a game without FIFA. Which brings us in an expectation that this game will be way better than FC24. I think that is where the pain lies. Our expectations are way too high from EA. In the last editions of the game, when the game has been the same over year and year and year, FC24 did feel slightly different because of hypermotion coming in. So it was a welcome change. It was the right direction. But FC25, as big as a change playstyles and evolutions had last year, FC25, the biggest change we are getting is the tactics menu that they have shown inside the game. Well, according to EA, before we tried the game, this has to change the game completely, and my honest opinion is it doesn't. The game we have coming up for this year, I mean, there is too much control in the menus, too many things to do. But the gameplay is not changing. It's literally lackluster. We don't really see that many upgrades coming in this year, which is a big bummer because FC25 is FC24 basically, with just a new tactics menu inside, which is mostly the same. Something that I'm really disappointed by. The last 10 years, I would say, this is the biggest change tactics has ever seen by far on their game. That is true. Since EA were doing that hypermotion scanning and stuff, they could scan how each player moved around the pitch, which then is translated over to a new feature called player role. There are over 50 new player roles inside the game. 50, and you could use them to move players around the pitch, and I'll explain how they work. The main job of these player roles is how your player performs out of position when he's not with the ball. So imagine like it's player instructions. So like when you set up your tactics, you can assign many player roles to each player who is playing on the pitch for your team. It also depends on the position as well. So if you have a position where there is 5 roles, you can assign up to 5 roles. You can also assign up to only 3 roles, but it depends on the position of the player. Secondly, the player role will impact your player positively or negatively. That also happens. So for example, if you're using Kylian Mbappe inside Real Madrid, there are 4 roles that you can apply to his striker: target forward, advance forward, poacher, and false 9. There are 4 roles on a striker. It also depends on the player. So if Kylian Mbappe is really good in playing the poacher role, there are 2 different plus symbols that come up on his head showing that he is role plus for that role. But then there is also the manager. So for example, if Ancelotti has a certain tactics put up in Real Madrid and Mbappe does not favor that plus role on that, then obviously it will negatively impact on how he can fit in. So it also depends on the manager's tactics, what he brings to the team. Now it's not just a set and forget. You can customize what Ancelotti wants in Real Madrid and get the most out of it. But there is also another way that you can replace your Mbappe and just go on with the tactics. That's your choice. Okay, now when you assign a player role, the player role is assigned to the position you are managing. There is a graphic map that appears on top of your screen, which shows what kind of player role is this and where will you find this player more when certain situations happen. It's like a box pattern that happens on the pitch. So for example, imagine like the pitch is divided in boxes, and if you assign a player role to your right back to go as a right wing back, the boxes will appear in front of him, showing you what he will do when he has the ball and when he doesn't have the ball. Same goes for the false backs. Basically, if you apply a false back role on the right back, he will move towards the center more because the cubes will show you where he will stay during the game. Okay, now there is expectation versus reality that will happen when you play this game. Even though these are very dense and even though this is something that should have been added in the game way long before, I feel like it does not translate over in the game as much as you think it will. It's mostly the same. That's what the pain is. Like you barely understand how these roles will actually change, because when I put a certain role on my right back or my left back, I do see him drifting back to where he should be anyways. So they do tend to ignore my roles, which is, I guess, is a way of EA showing a natural way that the right back and the left back will do. But this is something that makes the game more same towards FC24, which is a big problem. There's another problem what I went into, but this could be just me, that when I cater and play with these roles too much, there is big spaces that leave out in the pitch, which is extremely weird because I went too far with the roles. So they do tend to work, but how would I say, if you tell a human to do this, they will use their brain, while the players in the game are not humans. They are dumb creatures in 3D models, so they just do whatever the hell they want, which is a big problem. So all in all, my review to this FC IQ tactics system is that this feels like a more glorified version of what we already had as instructions. So I think it's just a marketing gimmick, but I do feel that there is potential. Now switching over to the big boy here, which is the gameplay. Now let me tell you, I've been playing this game for over 15 years. I know how to scan gameplay and what good gameplay is and what bad is, and I feel like this year specifically FC25 is not that big of a change as much as you would expect. Like technically the game is a very copy-paste game, if I would have to be very honest. It's a very similar game like it was since in FC24. The only thing I can say that is different in the game, as much as I've learned, is that the passing is extremely difficult. So the ping pong passing that we used to have over the years, like genuinely in this year, passing is another level of pain, and is mostly controlled by the players who have passing play styles. So it's more important to have a passing play style on you so that you can literally pass around, because passing around in this game is hard. Like doing a first time pass when you're going to receive the ball and you have to give it behind you is like impossible. Guinness Book of World Record if you pull that off. And you might have heard this before as well, not in FIFA 21 but other games, it always gets slower and slower. And yes, this game is way slower. Even if I play kickoff, I have played enough kickoff this year inside FC24 to judge this. So it does get a lot slower this year. Like how would I tell you? I mean, it's similarly using the hypermotion technology that we used to have in the games, and obviously it will be the same game, but such a same game like a carbon copy is something that you don't expect. Maybe it's an early build. We can hope for the game to get better in the upcoming updates or even the final release. While there is a new thing I noticed inside the game in FC25, when you are sprinting, right? When you're sprinting back as a defender, you have to keep up with the attacker who is sprinting with the ball, and if they make abrupt changes, your left stick is not that responsive when you are turning around as a defender. So you have to be very cautious when it comes to be keeping up with someone, because the turning radius of players, or I would say the reaction, the way you handle the left stick on the players is not as sensitive as it was back in the day. So I feel like it is being pushed to be playing more of a slower game than what we used to play last year. And it's not something that is not proposed by the community. People like playing slower games. PES has done it for many years and is a better game in terms of gameplay, and even the latest UFL beta was very slow. It's just that the execution, but you realize that making the game slower and slower and not making the core mechanics slower then causes another level of chaos, which is a problem. Another big thing in the gameplay, I realized what you can do tactical fouls, which is really nice, that you can push off someone if you want, and there is 9 players on the bench, which was a very welcome change since we will have so many cards that we would want to use as a super sub, so you can do that in the game. There was a big change in the game, we have to talk about it. Volta is not in the game because Volta was not successful at all and it was not in the game. So when you play the game, you realize that there is a thing that's gone now. We all know where Volta came from. It was FIFA Street and it was not the same thing. That's why it never got to the players. People never enjoyed it. They tried it for 4 different years. They updated that game mode, but nobody gave a shit. Which then is now followed by a new game mode called Rush, which is a 5v5 game mode substituted to Volta. This Rush game mode that I'm talking about is everywhere in Kickoff, Manager Career Mode, even Ultimate Team, and even in Pro Clubs. So in Ultimate Team, you control 1 player from your own Ultimate Team. You could play with 4 strangers online, or all of your friends can play against an AI goalkeeper. So that's something you have to keep in mind. See, there are things that they've added that makes the game mode new. Firstly, being a drone show. You'll see a drone show before the game, which is cool. There are new commentators in the game mode as well. The stadium where the Rush game mode happens is a brand new stadium, which is visually very good, I must say. But so it is a good thing. It's a new thing. If you talk about gameplay in Rush, it is good. It's not like it's bad, but I didn't feel amazing. Maybe it's probably because with friends it's much better. Secondly, the pitch I thought is slightly bigger because we have 5 players, but it's a huge pitch, so that kind of like creates a problem as well. We could probably see an update of them shrinking the pitch later, maybe that's happening, but it's mostly feeling like EA are trying to push the Rocket League psychology inside the game. It's the Rocket League what EA wants to take on, playing with friends, ball in the middle, 3-4 players trying to score a goal. That's what I thought. Okay, there is one thing inside Rush that is cool, and when the ball drops in, 4 of the players in each team just charge in towards the ball to get the ball. This is actually the way you kick off in Rush, which is hilarious to do with your friends. Similar like Rocket League, as I'm saying again and again. There are blue cards inside Rush, which is a new thing, and if you get a blue card, you cannot play for a minute. So similar to a demolition thing inside Rocket League. I mean, that's what I thought of it to be. One of the most exciting things about Rush is penalties. So it's not your normal penalties, it's the MLS penalties where you just put the ball down and then you dribble towards the goalkeeper. You have to take out the goalkeeper and then score. Now there is a big catch here. Inside this, what happens is that the enemy goalkeeper is controlled by the captain of the enemy team. So that's a human v human interaction, which is awesome, which is very good. See, I would say Rush, kickoff and career mode is a big no from my side. You cannot control the whole team and just enjoy in a smaller pitch. It makes no sense. It's like glorified Volta again and again. But in Ultimate Team, in pro clubs, makes a lot of sense. It's decent. So I would say overall the game has changed. It's not like it hasn't changed, but it hasn't changed as much as I would like to. That's something is our own expectation from the game. We want more from this game, and EA do whatever they can, and we still buy this game. That's another thing that we have to keep in mind, that we still buy this game because there ain't no football game out there that we can buy and enjoy our football season with. But yeah, the gameplay is good, but it's not that big of a change as much FC24 was since FIFA 23. So that's something you keep in mind. Tactics, Rush, and that's about it. That's like all you have. Probably roles, I would say, and that's all. Some problems like duplicate storage and pro clubs being better, the season pass being better, but that's all the story is when it comes to FC25. I mean, that's my honest opinion. So if you want to watch know more detailed stuff about each and everything about the game, here's a video right here where you can click.